the model right there, man. Every kid in your state should be able to tap into an education savings account and take that money to whatever outlet they want, private, homeschool, whatever, or stick with the local public school. That's what will create the competition to break the teacher unions, to break the monopoly, to get rid of the grooming and all the nasty stuff they're doing in your local public school. You have to have competitions. It's just absolutely essential, and empower those parents to take that money and go to the school of their choice. So Iowa's is great. I think Arkansas is almost as good. There's Louisiana. There's a lot of states that have done it, and that has put pressure on Abbott to lead here in Texas. And after COVID and people watching the Zoom classes and realizing the trash that their children were being taught, more people got on board with school choice, and so the winds got strong enough that Abbott finally decided to lead on this issue. And so he hasn't led on it until literally the last few months. I mean, this year, it's been less than a year. So when I say last few months, I mean he kind of slightly pushed it just a little bit in the regular session. Then he started saying, I'm really going to push it, and started calling these special sessions for it. And they didn't do it in the first one. That ended last Tuesday, I think it was. He immediately called them back into a second one. He says that he's going to just keep calling them back. So he's going to force them to come back special session after special session after special session until they get it done. So he is, I think, I have to give props where props are due. He is now leading boldly on this issue. He is now putting the pressure on. Now, the plan that he is supporting, and that he says he had a deal, he said that he had a deal with Lieutenant Governor Patrick, who runs the Senate, and with Speaker Phelan, who runs the House. Now, Phelan is terrible. He's a lousy speaker. He's a moderate at best, and he's given all this power to Democrats. And there are Republican legislators in Texas that have supported this sharing of power with the Democrats, literally giving them chairmanships, which they then use to kill good legislation. Okay, and there's a bunch of Republicans in Texas that have supported Phelan on this, and every single one of them need to be primaried, and every single one of them need to be defeated. And I'm endorsing candidates all over Texas against incumbent Republicans for that very reason, because they have continued to play this game of letting the Democrats run the Texas House. And that's the reason school choice continues to die in the House. That, and the fact that you have rural Republicans that are bowing to the teacher unions. They do whatever the teacher unions want on this issue, and they're unwilling to be bold enough to empower parents. And that's what this is all about. What does school choice do? It empowers parents. All it's about is letting the money follow the child, letting the parent decide where that money is going to go, and giving that competition in the market that will create better schools all the way around. And as I said Tuesday, and I got some love letters on this from good friends that didn't like the way that I criticized the anti-school choice conservatives out there, the anti-parental choice conservatives out there, the anti-empowering parents conservatives out there. And that's the only way, I'm sorry, it's the only way to describe it. You're against parental empowerment. You're against choice. You're against competition and the free market. Now, you have your reasons. I get it. Your reasons are you're afraid of the regulation that's going to come with the money and follow the child to the schools or to the homeschooling. Don't take the money. So if that's your concern, don't take the money. Don't accept that, and let only those people that absolutely need the money to be able to get their kid out of that school that's more guns and gangs than it is education. Let them have the choice. Let them take the money, and if it ends up coming with strings later, let them deal with it. I think we're going to end up with more lobbying power on the anti-regulation of private schools and homeschoolers. We're going to increase our strength enough to be able to stave off regulation even better than we can do now. So I don't agree with the fear factor. I don't agree with the concerns that anti-parental choice conservatives have. But even if they have that, I say, okay, fine. You get to have your opinion. You get to have your vote. Don't take the money. But stop this business of being anti-freedom, and stop this business of being against me being able to take the money. And friends, other conservatives and other parents, and not even just conservatives. I mean, let's empower everybody to take control of the education of their child. How did I get off on that? I don't remember what I was saying. What was I going with all? Oh, Greg Abbott is leading on this, and I am not an Abbott fan. Everybody knows that listens to me, but I gotta say he is leading on this. And the deal, that's where I was going. The deal that he struck with Patrick and Phelan, supposedly just 10 days ago, was $10,500. Excuse me. I had to take a swig of coffee. Thank you. Okay. The deal that he struck with them supposedly was $10,500, which is only a percentage of the money. I think we average about $18,000 for public school in Texas. Might be $15,000, whatever that number is. It's a lot more than $10,500. But $10,500 would go into an education savings account, and parents would be able to direct that money to the school of their choice and the education for their kids. It's only $1,000 for homeschoolers. I completely disagree with that. I think it ought to be the same for everybody. And you direct that wherever you want to go, but apparently that might be the best we can get. And again, you trust the guy in the room. If that's the best we can get, then get that, right? Get at least something passed on school choice and start moving the right direction. If that deal that he originally had with Patrick and Phelan and then fell apart in the House because, Phelan's a failed speaker. But if that deal gets back on the table and if they actually can get that deal done, folks, that is a huge game changer. That breaks this leftist control of education. And the leftist control of education is why America's in the mess it's in right now. Everything comes back to this, folks. Everything comes back to the petri dish where bad government grows, which is civic and biblical ignorance. It is the left's control of education that has removed the Bible from the classrooms, removed civics from the classrooms, replaced it with CRT and all the nonsense. The left controlling education is the cause that we have for the effect of bad government, uneducated people, a nation in decline, the crumbling culture. All of it goes back to that cause of the left controlling education. Because when you don't teach the Bible, when you don't teach the Ten Commandments, when you don't teach right from wrong, when you actually say there is no right or wrong, everybody do whatever feels good. There's no man or woman. You be whatever gender you want. Make up names and you get... That's where it goes. No moral absolutes leads to moral relativism, which leads to chaos, confusion, and absolute cultural decay. And that all goes back to education. It all goes back to what are you teaching the next generation? That's why America's falling apart. That's why Ronald Reagan was 100% right when he said freedom is a fragile thing. It's never more than one generation away from extinction. We don't pass it to the kids in the bloodstream. It's got to be fought for and protected and passed on for them to do the same. And if we don't do that, if we don't have informed patriotism, if we don't teach civic and biblical literacy, we will be telling our children and our children's children what it was once like to live in America where men were free. Well, folks, we're there. Well, we're having to tell our children and our children's children what it was once like to live in America where men were free, where you got to worship on Sunday morning if you thought that was the right thing to do, and your pastor decided whether or not to open the church, not some government bureaucrat. Where you decided when to open or close your business. You decided whether or not to wear a face diaper, whether or not to get 14,000 jabs or however many more they're going to tell you is going to keep you safe and claim that they're safe and effective even though they're neither. Right? There was a time in America where the answer to the question who decides was you. The answer to the question who decides was the pastor or the business owner, the property owner, the local organizations. Now, the answer to the question who decides is almost always some faraway government bureaucrat. And the reason we're there and the reason the culture's falling apart is education. School choice gives us a chance, gives us a fighting chance to turn this thing around because it empowers the parents. Anytime legislation takes power away from the bureaucrats and gives it to the individual and the family, we ought to be for it. I said that 30 years ago. I actually ran for the legislature 25 years ago on that as my platform. I said, okay, I can't tell you the 5,000 bills that are going to come before me, but I can tell you my paradigm. I can tell you my decision-making process. Number one question will be, do I have authority? Is this within my domain? Is this within the authority that people have given me on this particular subject? Second question would be, does it take power away from the bureaucrats and give power to the people, or does it take power away from the people and give power to the government? That would determine my position on the issue. Well, what's the answer to those two questions with school choice? Absolutely, it's within the domain of the state government, and absolutely it gives power to the individual and the parent. It takes power away from government, takes power away from the bureaucrats, takes power away from the left, and gives it to the people, which is why everyone should support it. I don't care what your background is. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, Daffy Duck Party, leftist, or on the right, in the center, don't know what you are. You ought to support freedom. You ought to fall on the side, err on the side of individual choice and freedom. All right, folks, out of time for today. Thanks so much for listening. My name is Rick Green. I'm America's Constitution coach, hosting here on At the Core with Walker Wobble. You get Walker tomorrow, of course. Walker with you Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm with you Tuesdays, Thursdays. We'll see you next Tuesday here on At the Core.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
90.5 KTXG, Greenville, Dallas.
The God Who Speaks explores the evidence of the Bible's inspiration and authority through some of the world's most respected biblical scholars.
The Bible subjects itself to historical verification. It puts itself at risk of inquiry.
From the American Family Association, The God Who Speaks, available now at thegodwhospeaks.org.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Robert Thornton. Today, Israeli Defense Forces say they found the body of a hostage taken in Hamas's October 7th attack, Fox News reports. Israeli forces said they found the woman's body in a building adjacent to the Al-Shifa hospital, which Israel says Hamas has been using as headquarters until early this week. The IDF did not offer any details about the woman's body beyond her name, but noted her family has been contacted. At least 6 U.S. Capitol police officers were injured last night when a pro-Palestinian riot erupted outside the Democratic National Committee headquarters. Several Democrat representatives and candidates, including House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, were inside the Democrat headquarters when the protesters gathered outside. U.S. Capitol Police said about 150 people were illegally and violently protesting in the Capitol Hill neighborhood of Washington. Here's a protester speaking with Fox News. She claims it's the police that were violent.
Yeah, we were peacefully saying ceasefire now, and the cops violently pushed us to the ground, threw us to the ground. So the violence that's happening around the world is happening right in our backyards.
The pro-Palestinian riot was in sharp contrast to the massive pro-Israel rally on Tuesday at the National Mall, which saw an estimated 300,000 people gather peacefully in support of the Jewish state. A suspect has been arrested in connection with the death of a Jewish man in California who died from injuries sustained while counter-protesting a pro-Palestinian demonstration, according to the New York Post. The 50-year-old man was taken into custody yesterday in connection to the death of Paul Kessler on November 5th, the Ventura County Sheriff's Office announced. Authorities said he was booked on involuntary manslaughter charges. Bail has been set at $1 million. President Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping met during the APEC summit in San Francisco yesterday. President Xi also met with American CEOs to discuss numerous issues. Here's Fox's Edward Lawrence.
President Joe Biden meeting with President Xi Jinping for 4 hours in an area in the Bay Area outside of San Francisco. Then Xi went to a dinner with high-profile American CEOs, blowing off the dinner for the world leaders at APEC summit where President Biden spoke. A smaller group of CEOs, including Elon Musk, met in a private setting with Xi that's fresh off a deal made with President Biden to crack down on companies in China that make fentanyl or source materials for the deadly drug. The two agreed to talk about AI.
Despite the positive talks, President Biden did call President Xi a dictator after the meeting. An immigration enforcement advocacy organization said it is telling that the deep blue state of Massachusetts is considering E-Verify. Here's Nathan's Chad quoting.
The Joint Committee on Development in the Massachusetts Legislature is considering House Bill 1866, an act protecting Massachusetts workers, and its Senate companion, SB 1169. These bills protect American workers by requiring that all businesses in Massachusetts use the federal E-Verify program when hiring employees. E-Verify allows employers to electronically confirm potential employees' work eligibility by matching their Social Security number or work authorization information against pre-existing records. These bills will expand the current law in Massachusetts, which already requires E-Verify for state agencies. Ira Melvin is the media director for the Federation for American immigration reform.
Massachusetts, like Chicago, like New York City, like a lot of other places, is waking up to the reality that mass illegal immigration is a serious issue, that it affects people in their states and communities, and that we cannot endlessly absorb the number of people that the Biden administration is allowing to cross the border.
And Melvin's Governor Maura Healey needs to get with the E-Verify program rather than push for the DHS to speed up the work authorization for migrants.
The governor there, Governor Healey, she needs to start talking to the folks in Washington, D.C. and making it clear, along with a lot of these other deep blue state leaders. They need to make it clear to the administration that this is not tolerable and it's unsustainable.
I'm Chad Groening.
And that is a wrap on news at this hour. Visit afn.net, that's afn.net, to see more. We appreciate your listening. For American Family News, I'm Robert Thornton.
What does the American Family Association stand for? AFA upholds the truth that all human beings, including the unborn, are created in the image of God and are worthy of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These values and more are part of our mission to inform, equip, and activate individuals to strengthen the moral foundations of our culture. We also support the church. We want to be a leading organization in biblical worldview training for cultural transformation. Thank you for standing with us. Hello, and welcome to the Dr. Nurse Mama Show, prescribing hope for healthy families here on American Family Radio. Here's your host, Professor, Pediatric Nurse Practitioner, and Mama of 4, Dr. Jessica Peck.
Well, hello, friends, and welcome back to the Dr. Nurse Mama Show. Today, we are going to be talking about hope for the holidays. I am going to give you a holiday survival guide for parents. I know that as school is nearing an end, we are looking at the Thanksgiving holidays coming up, and then it is usually just a mad rush. Finally, all of you out there who say, Christmas doesn't start until the day after Thanksgiving. Well, friends, that is coming. And so Christmas will be here for everyone. And we will be into the shopping and the school performances and the family gatherings and all of those kinds of things. And although the holidays can be some of the most joyous moments for parents, they can also be some of the most stressful. So today on the show for you, I'm going to talk to you about some tips to make your holiday less stressful. We'll be talking about that in this first segment here, and then I'm going to dive into the complexities of difficult family relationships. I've been hearing from so many of you who are just so worried about that, feeling like, what do we do for the holidays? This family relationship is contentious. We want to honor the Lord in what we do and how we treat people, but just the thought of going to visit or engaging in this family dynamic is just enough to make me stressed out. So we'll be talking about some healthy boundaries and some hope for healthy relationships. And then coming up later on for this holiday bundle we have for you today, we'll be talking to a recipient from Operation Christmas Child. We'll be talking to someone who received a box and how that impacted her life. So you won't want to miss that. So with that, let's just dive in here and talk about a parent survival guide for the holidays. Now, unfortunately, we all know it's true. We all hate it. Collectively, I think, but we all know it's true that the holidays are just bombarded by commercial pressures. I mean, we also feel that social pressure to be the perfect family with the perfect kids and the perfect parents and the perfect holiday. And that is just impossible. We set ourselves up to fail because when we're looking at healthy relationships during this time, we have to remember that healthy relationships are not perfect. There will still be conflict. There will still be words spoken in anger. There will still be mistakes made. There will still be moments where you let that stress bubble get to you and you speak sharply and you don't mean it. And so there is value in saying, I'm sorry. please forgive me. And that can be a really powerful model for our kids, to apologize when we mess up. Not if we mess up, because we are going to mess up. But when we mess up, saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me for this. And then change your behavior. But I'll give you a secret. Our kids do not want a perfect holiday. They don't want a perfect Thanksgiving. They don't want a perfect Christmas. They want a present parent. That's what they want more than anything. And so as you start to go into the holiday season, I want you to have that first on your mind, because especially those of you like me with teenagers, it can feel like that's the furthest thing from the truth. For their adult children, it can feel like, yeah, I don't think that visiting mom and dad is really high up the holiday priority list. But they do want us to be there. And we can't rely on them to give us instant gratification and to direct our activities, to say, when we do something nice, they say, oh my gosh, that was amazing. Thank you so much for doing that. And I loved having you here. And then we feel validated. We have to invest in what we think is wise and lead as parents. But the greatest gift that every kid wants, and I can tell you this is from research, no matter what age they are, and no matter what they say, is really want more time. So about spending all your money, so many times during the holiday we think about that a lot, how much we're spending or not spending, but we don't give a second thought to hoarding or spending or wasting our time. And that doesn't take nearly as much intention as our Christmas budget does, for example. Magical holidays are just not created by material means. That is just the truth. Magical holidays are created by meaningful memories. Can you recall every gift you received when you were 12? Or what you did on your 10th Thanksgiving? Can you remember exactly what every dish was? Or, if there were real dishes or paper plates? I doubt it. But I do believe that you would remember a kind word from a loved one, a sacrificial gift that someone gave you, or laughter in calamity. It really doesn't matter if you burn the apple pie. And yes, Mom, that's my husband's mom, I'm talking to you. We still think that's funny. But we do remember those memory investments. So when you are thinking about your holiday, before you start stressing about your budget, think about your memory investments, not your monetary ones. And when you're feeling stressed, you're starting to feel the stress of the holiday, here's a question that you really need to ask yourself. You need to ask, is this stress self-imposed? Am I putting this stress and this pressure on myself? Because I think so many times as parents, and especially as moms, we feel that pressure to make a holiday event or a family gathering perfect, or we want, to get that perfect picture. And the truth is, a lot of times nobody cares about it but us. And we're sitting here stressing ourselves out over something that is probably not that important. So if the stress is self-imposed, then think, what can I do to change that? Did I overcommit my time? Did I overcommit my finances? Can I take it back? Is this obligation I feel self-inflicted and nobody's putting pressure on it but me? Now, if that stress is not self-imposed, if it is coming from another source, then you really ask the same questions and think, is this a stress that I need in my life? And I want, right before, we are a little early in this holiday season, but I want you to be intentional about this holiday season. And you can be intentional in planning the best holiday your family has ever had. And a lot of that comes from the freedom of saying no. Just saying no. Feel the glory of simply saying, we're not available. No, we can't do that. Thank you for asking us. And not apologizing a million times and saying, well, I don't know. Let me see if we can move some things around, and let me talk to my husband, and let's see if, he can take our daughter to dance practice so that I can come over there. Just feel the glory of saying, let me check on that and get back to you. Or just saying, I really appreciate you asking, but that's just not something we can do this year. And let it go. Forgive yourself. find peace and self-release and prioritize your own mental health and thinking, what are the best decisions for our family? That is your biggest obligation, is serving the children and your spouse who are in your home. And so if some of those priorities are coming from social pressures you're feeling outwards, just think about your priorities really intentionally. So I want you to think, the first thing, that's the first question I have for you, is how are you intentionally planning to spend your time and your finances this holiday season? Now, the second thing that I want to tell you is that I want to talk about that pesky thief of joy, as my daughter likes to call it. I am talking about comparison. Comparison is the thief of joy. And so often at the holidays, we find ourselves in that comparison trap magnified. Now, this can come through social media where we're looking at these glamorous vacations that people are taking with snowy pictures and ski lodges somewhere, or outings that they're taking. Everybody's cutting down their own Christmas tree and bringing it back, or you see family relationships that just look so perfect, and you see mothers and daughters getting together for holiday brunch, or maybe going to see the Nutcracker Ballet, and you see gifts that people are getting, and you start to have that seed of discontent. So I encourage you to be intentional about the